anyone now with very little skill and knowledge can come into this. They can cover up things like rust. They could take blistering paint and, and make it look nice and fresh again, and you would never know until you went out of your way to go see the car. Who's to say that, granted, we spotted some differences in these pictures, but who's to say in another year or 2 years that AI isn't going to be able to just, regurgitate something that looks completely passable and you can't tell the difference, and maybe you think you're talking to a buyer who's selling a car out of state. And that car, as it turns out, doesn't even exist. It's not even a real car. It's just a scam. It's some Nigerian scammer or something.
From Olympic City and the home of Pikes Peak, this is the Automotive ADHD Show with Matt West.
Oh man, so much has happened while I was in Japan. I mean, I swear, the second I leave, everything just goes nuts. There's all sorts of different things going on in the car world. We had here in Colorado one of the biggest gas contamination scandals, I think, in recent memory. It was making all sorts of national headlines. Like, I heard about it in Japan. I mean, I swear, the second I leave, stuff like this happens. So we're going to talk about that gas contamination scandal. We're going to discuss what's happening, what's the current state of it, but also what can you do to either prevent that from happening to you, or what do you do once it has happened to you? We're going to discuss that. Also, used car sales, well, have just become even more challenging. And yes, there's the shady sellers, there's the crusty bodywork, the missing parts, and now the AI. Yes, AI has officially crept its way into used car sales, and this I do not think is going to be a net positive. I don't think that one bit. Is it going to be Armageddon itself? Well, we'll get to that and more. And then I want to tell you about some of my experiences at the Tokyo Auto Salon. I'll give you some of the highlights and some of the lowlights, which some of them were somewhat entertaining. And we'll get to all of that and more on this edition of the Automotive ADHD Show. Now, I do want to thank Jim Miller, Just a Guy, for filling in for me while I was in Japan. He did a great job, and you should check out, if you haven't listened to it, his interview that he did with Courtney Wirtz. Now, Courtney is with a group called Clutch Kickin' Cuties, and they are a group that seeks to get women into motorsports with a series of events and that focus on mentorship and a positive sense of competition. And they're really growing tremendously. I think what I hear that they started with 11 people and they're now at 40 in the group. And it's a great thing. And you should check out the interview to hear about that and more. That's on the podcast. It's also on YouTube, which is a good opportunity for me to remind you that the YouTube channel is something you need to subscribe to, because we are closing slowly but surely on 10,000 subscribers, and we need to get over the hump, get to 10,000 subscribers on the YouTube channel. I think we might find something cool and exciting to do once we hit that threshold. But even if you listen to the show on the podcast or you listen on the radio, go ahead and do me a favor. Jump over to YouTube, look up Automotive ADHD Show, and subscribe to it. And, show your support for the show by just subscribing over there on YouTube. That goes a long way. And hey, it doesn't cost you anything, so that's cool too. We've got a lot of great things up on the YouTube, and some things that you're not going to catch if you just listen to the show on the radio or if you just catch it on the podcast. We've got a lot of great stuff on there, some exclusive content. And if you're not already watching the show on video, well, what are you doing? Get over there and subscribe on YouTube. Also, coming up later in the show, I have a new giveaway item. I think I'm really excited for it, really proud of it. I think it's going to be really cool, and you should win it. So I'll tell you about that and more. That's all coming up here. Now, before we get to that, As you know, as I mentioned at the top of the show, I spent the past 12 days in Japan, and I didn't just spend it at the Tokyo Auto Salon. That was only a 3-day event. If anything, that event was really sort of the capstone. That was the finale to my trip in Japan. And my trip in Japan, well, I think I'll have to get Wesley Kagan on to share his side of the story, because I dragged him to Japan. If you subscribe to him on YouTube, of course, you're familiar with what he does. He does all sorts of cool, interesting, eccentric automotive engineering projects that are definitely over-engineered. But, you know, I mean, when you have all sorts of cool tools and mills and CNC machines and lathes and things like that, why not custom make every single little painstaking part of a car that you didn't pay a lot of money for? Why not? Why not? Go figure. That's the sort of stuff Wesley Kagan likes to do. What I don't imagine he liked as much was trekking through waist-deep snow in northern Japan with me for 12 days. I don't know. I don't quite have a good read on that. But we did fly all the way to, we went, well, obviously to Japan, and then we took a domestic flight up to Hokkaido, the very top of Japan. This is the top northernmost high portion of the country. It's actually the separate island at the very top. And we even went so far north in Hokkaido that we were, as the crow flies, only like 200 miles away from Russia. And I can assure you, the temperature and the climate there was very Siberian. It was very cold. There was a lot of snow. It was a wet, very wet, heavy snow. And then we worked our way on foot and by train down from the very tippy top of Japan to the main island, all the way down across the island and back to Tokyo. And it took a good portion of those 12 days. And we saw, I mean, some tremendous scenery. If you're watching on video, I'll roll some of the B-roll, just some of the neat sights that we saw there in Japan. And we did get ourselves stuck in quite a lot of snow. And there's more to this story. I know I might just wait to have Wesley Kagan share some of that story. We also went on a quest, I will say, to find the mysterious 10 millimeter socket. So, and we traveled all across Japan looking for that 10 millimeter socket. Did we find it? Well, we'll have to let Wesley Kagan share that side of the story. I'll have him on the show here at a later date, probably pretty soon. But one of the things I noticed while going through Japan was the cars, okay? But not just any cars. I was really paying attention. I noticed it on my first trip to Japan. This wasn't my first time going there. But I noticed on my first trip that the Japanese really do seem to like American cars. And so I kind of made it a point while I was out there to see what sort of other American cars do I see, and does it change based on the region? And it absolutely does, because one of the things I saw in droves in Hokkaido and even the northern part of the main island, which is Aomori, and you've got Morioka, and you got these different places kind of up in that northern portion of the main island there. You have loads and loads of Jeep Wranglers. Yeah, Jeep Wranglers, of all things. I wouldn't have necessarily thought that the Jeep Wrangler, given its context with the Second World War and Japan's position in that World War, I would not have thought that the Wrangler would be all that popular of a vehicle. But you know what? The Japanese, of course, have proven me wrong in that context. They really love those Wranglers. The other thing that I saw in Hokkaido was Toyota Tundras. The Tundra is a U.S. market, and okay, fine, Canada, U.S. and Canada market only vehicle. I saw a bunch of those there. And then we even saw, I'll roll the video here. We saw a Toyota Tacoma, a Jim Miller spec, lowered, bagged on nice wheels, Toyota Tacoma, a U.S. market Tacoma, which, by the way, was never sold in Japan. They only sold the Hilux there, which is a different truck. This was a U.S. market Tacoma. And I went ahead and posted a video of this on Instagram where it got between Instagram and Facebook, over 1 million views, which was mind-blowing. So many other people could not believe that somebody imported a Tacoma, it was a first-gen Tacoma, into Japan. Now, looking into this further, turns out there is quite the American car scene in Japan. There's an entire lowrider culture, go figure, like 60s American cars, lowrider with wire wheels, crazy paint, and the guys driving these even dress the part. They dress like they're from Southern California in the 90s. It's very bizarre. It's very different. But I think this is a growing trend in Japan, and I have a business idea surrounding that. So we'll get to that and more. We'll talk about the fuel contamination crisis. We'll talk about AI encroaching on car sales. All of that's coming up here. You're listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. Don't go anywhere.
No left lane hogs here. Automotive ADHD with Matt West.
17 minutes after the top of the hour, if you're joining me here on my flagship station, AM 1460 and FM 101.1, The Answer. But of course, you can catch this show on several great radio stations across Southern Colorado. And I do want to thank you no matter where you're joining me on the show, whether it's on the radio, whether it's online. Appreciate you being along for the ride here. Now, before we get to the gas scandal, I have a giveaway item, and I would like for you to win it. And it's not exact. I don't know if I can necessarily call it a contest because it really isn't. But what I have here, it's, by the way, this hoodie that I'm wearing, and obviously I'm not going to give you this one. This one's mine, but I'm going to give you a nice, clean, fresh, new one. You could put your grease stains and oil stains on it, however you would like. That's up to you to decide. But this hoodie, if I'm going to turn around here, if you're watching on video, it's got a neat design on the back that I put together that says "More Cars Than Friends." And of course, that's Jim Miller's key saying, I guess you could say. Maybe not the key saying, but that is a Jim Miller-ism. And in his case, it is absolutely true. But if you would like to display to the world, to your single, maybe friend or two, that you do have more cars than friends, or maybe you have lots of friends, but you would like to display your questionable tastes in automotive programming, then, well, you can check out this hoodie. Now, this interesting story with this, because I'll turn back around here, and you can see the text is red, white, and blue, and but the R in more, where more is white, the R is red in more. And that was actually a mistake at the print shop. And that was an earnest, honest to God mistake that happened. And the print shop told me, hey, sorry about that. We'll get you another run of these hoodies and we'll fix that. And we'll give you the other run for free. And so I was like, great, no problem. But that means I now have a surplus of these. And these first edition, we'll call them the Red R edition hoodies, are limited, and there's not going to be any more of them like this. Well, hopefully there's not going to be any more print shop mistakes that lead to these, but you get what I mean. And so these are limited edition is what we'll say. And you can win your own one of these. I've got medium, large, and XLs in stock right now. And you can win one by sending me an email and just give me the size you want, medium, large, or XL. And title the email, like in the subject line, put in something like, "I love Jim Miller's Mustang." That way I'll know when I check my email that you're asking for a hoodie. And go ahead and do that. And I will give these away as long as supplies last. So, if you want one, shoot me an email. If I've run out by the time you've done it, it is what it is, but I have more on the way. So maybe next time, shoot me another email. But for these, I'm just going to give them away while supplies last. So that's all you have to do. Email me, matt@automotiveadhd.com. Subject line, "I love Jim Miller's Mustang." And then obviously in the body of that email, you'll want to put what size you want and your mailing address so I know where to send it. So again, matt@automotiveadhd.com. So before the break, I was talking about how I noticed the Japanese really seem to love American cars. And shouldn't necessarily surprise me. They love a lot of things about American culture, American fashion, American movies, American TV. They love it all. They just can't get enough of it. But for some reason, because I'm a car guy and I do the JDM car stuff here in the States, I'm here in the shop and I've got the AE86 over there. I've got the S2K back there. I've got the Subaru, and they're all Japanese cars. Now, granted, they're not like left-hand or they're not right-hand drive, JDM models. I don't have a JDM S2000, but for all intents and purposes, they're the same car. But having said that, it shouldn't actually have come as much of a surprise that the Japanese like their American cars so much. And my business brain got turning on this because this is a tremendous opportunity that we could actually take advantage of, a mutual taking advantage of this, in fact, because here's my idea. We create sort of like a pen pal service, right? Like you could have a pen pal. Did you ever have one when maybe you were in like high school or something? You could have a pen pal in a foreign country and you send letters and maybe cool little souvenirs back and forth. Well, what if we have a company that orchestrates pen pals, except with cars and car parts? So like you get a Japanese person that you send American cars to. So maybe you send him like a Pontiac Grand Prix or something, and he sends you a Honda Acty K truck. And then next month, you guys, maybe you send him like a Fox Body Mustang and he sends you a S14 Sylvia. I mean, like it could be pretty cool, right? And it doesn't have to just be the cars themselves. It could be various car parts. I mean, if you've got some, I don't know, Krager D window wheels or something for, a muscle car, you could send those. And then maybe he sends you some like CR-Kis or maybe some WEDs, something like that, right? This could be really cool. Okay. I think this could be really fun. And like we could have the cool JDM stuff sent here and they can have the cool US market stuff, the USDM stuff that they want there. Like it's crazy. Like some of the Japanese people are so fanatical about American spec cars that they actually go out of their way to replicate California spec versions of American cars. Like as Americans, we don't want anything to do with the California version. That's got all the crappy emission stuff on it. It's got worse, stupid safety stuff. It looks worse. All of the above, right? Like we don't want the California spec ever, but they go nuts over the California spec there. It's such a different world. And meanwhile, we got guys here, got guys like me who want old Toyotas, maybe some old Honda parts and all of that stuff. Maybe I want different turbos or something for my Subaru. Who knows, right? Like there's all of these cool different ways that you could have a Japanese parts buddy. That could be interpreted incorrectly, but you could have a parts buddy instead of a pen pal, a parts pal. How about that? A parts pal. And I mean, occasionally you're sending whole cars back and forth to each other. So I don't know. I think I need to start this. I think this is a tremendous business idea. So if you're an American and you want some Japanese cars and parts and you would want to jump on this, let me know. Of course, if you're Japanese, we need the other end of this too. If you're Nihonjin, you can jump on this and let me know. Let me know if you want to be a part of this, and we'll find a way to make it work, and everyone will get the cool cars and cool parts that they want. And I might make some money somewhere in between there. Who knows? Maybe. So anyway, all right. So the fuel crisis that has happened here in Colorado caught a ton of people off guard. And I was, as you know, in Japan, and I heard about it while I was in Japan. That's how big of a news story it ended up being. So I know I'm a little late to the game on actually reporting the event itself, because again, I was in Japan when it happened. But to get you up to speed, because we'll talk about what happened, but also I want to talk about now the ensuing lawsuit that is following it. And then also, what can you do to protect yourself in a situation like this? Because it seems like there's really nothing you can do, but there's one or two things that I think some people probably wished they had done now at this point. But to get you up to speed on this happened earlier this month, and the Colorado Department of Labor and Employment received over 600 complaints from consumers who experienced, they say, a variety of engine issues after receiving gas. Now, the gas, by the way, was sold at fuel stations in, oh boy, are you ready for this? I can't give you an exhaustive list here, but here's just a little taste of it. Denver, Breckenridge, Lakewood, Fort Collins, Littlewood, Greenwood Village, Westminster, Henderson, Aurora, Colorado Springs, Conifer, Castle Rock, Arvada, Broomfield, Firestone, Parker. Oh man, there's a lot here, and there's more. There are more places affected. And again, this turned into actually quite the national story, not just in Colorado. And what happened with the fuel is it was contaminated with diesel. Obviously, you don't want anything in your fuel, in your gasoline, that isn't really gasoline, or, maybe a little ethanol mixed in with your gasoline is fine, right? But generally, that's about it. You don't want diesel in your gasoline. And now a ton of people have been affected by this. Now, bear in mind, they only received 600 complaints. Those are the people who actually wrote into the Department of Labor and Employment to complain. There were tons of other people, various car forums and Facebook pages I'm on locally in the state. I saw tons of people dealing with issues related to this. And it's frustrating, for one, because there's really, as a driver, there's really nothing you can do preemptively to prevent this. Like, how do you know that the gas station has bad gas? You really don't. We'll get to some more of that. But this has left a ton of people without cars, with expensive repairs. And I mean, really expensive repairs. It's not just, all right, drain the gas tank and you're good. Especially on these modern direct injection cars, there's possibility of having to redo the entire fuel system on these, which isn't cheap. Who knows if everyone's going to be able to get parts for it, because how often are people rebuilding modern fuel systems on modern cars? Not that often. I don't imagine the dealership has all that many parts lying around for that. So there's that. There's the repair concern here. There's the fact that irreparable damage can be done to the engine if you get a big old shot of diesel in there and it doesn't want to compress. I mean, there's certain things that can go quite wrong and become very, very expensive and a huge headache to deal with. And the fact is, and I saw this had affected some people in the car community as well, but the fact is this affected the vast majority of the public in many of these areas. And so it's not just car guys. And a lot of the general public tends to have like one car or two cars. They're not Jim Miller. They don't have 50 cars. Okay. So like when one of them goes down, if you're like Jim Miller, one of your cars breaks down and you just grab another one, and then you discover that one doesn't have a good battery because you haven't started it in forever, and the tires are flat. Okay, so you move on to your next car, and then, okay, well, that one's got an issue. Don't know what it is. We'll move on to... So by the time... But Jim has enough cars that eventually, as he cycles through all the problems, he'll find one that runs enough that he can get to work, right? Most people aren't in that same category. They've got their one car. Maybe they've got two cars in the family. Gosh, what if husband and wife both got gas at the same station and both cars got knocked out simultaneously? Like, think about how much of a pain in the butt this really is. Now, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to the legal battle surrounding it, as well as a few things I've thought of that you can do to at least minimize the impact if this does happen to you. That's all coming up here. You're listening to the Automotive ADHD Show. We'll be right back after the break. Hey, we haven't done one of those in a while. Car Sounds on the show. We took a little bit of a hiatus with Car Sounds, but that is from Bryce. Remember, Bryce is the guy who listened to all of the show front to back, like from the very beginning of the show on the podcast, and he binged it all the way until now. And again, I don't know if his hearing has quite recovered in the way it should, but I did send him some earplugs, so hopefully that's good. But that's Bryce in his Miata. at the West Virginia Hill Fest. And that, for one, is some nice driving right there. For two, that looks like a ton of fun. I've always wanted to do one of those hill climb events where it's on an actual public road that has just been closed down. Officially, it's been properly shut down. There's all this safety stuff, law enforcement there for the hill climb. I've always wanted to do that personally. As being around the Pikes Peak Hill Climb all the time and getting the show around it, it always seems like a ton of fun. Now, the Pikes Peak Hill Climb itself isn't necessarily the sort of event that you just sign up for and go run, if you feel like it. It's a little more exclusive than that. But something like that, West Virginia Hill Fest, that looks like a ton of fun. So, Bryce, thanks for sending that in. Thanks for listening to the show. And of course, if you've got car sounds that you want to share, you can do that. Send them to me on the Facebook page, facebook.com/automotive-ADHD. There's a pinned post on the page. You can comment with the car sounds there, or you can email me, matt@automotiveadhd.com. Now, before the break, we were talking about the gas contamination crisis that happened here in Colorado and affected largely all of central and sort of northern Colorado. And that, I was saying just before the break how I think tragic it is that this is affecting a lot of people in a very negative way. And a lot of the people affected by this had no way to know. You just drive up to the gas station and you're getting bad gas. And yeah, we see this in an isolated context. We see gas contamination issues here and there. And usually it's a single gas station. This was a lot. And this was definitely at the distributor level that this happened. And this happened in such a way that has now, of course, spurred a lawsuit now. There is a class action lawsuit that's been proposed. And this lawsuit is, obviously with it being a class action, even if you are not directly in the lawsuit, if you're part of the class, you could see a payout from this. But the challenge I see with the class action, my concern with that, we'll get to it in a little bit. I do have some concerns with that. But having said that, the lawsuit here is basically seeking damages for all the people involved, which those damages can be pretty significant because not only did you have damage to the fuel system, damage to the car, you might have needed a motor, you had all that stuff. You were also out your car for however long you needed. It might have been very important that you had your car. Maybe something tragic happened because you couldn't get somewhere. There's all sorts of extra damages that I think people are going to be seeking when they look into this class action lawsuit. And the class action lawsuit is being run by the attorneys at Frank Azar and Associates. If you're local to Colorado, you see the Frank Azar billboards. He'll jump on anything here, and he's jumping on this one. And but for a good cause. People need to be made whole in this situation, and it's not necessarily just the repairs at this point. But having said that, what can you do, right? What can you do to minimize your risk, your liability, perhaps, when you're getting gas? Because you don't know if the gas in the tanks at the gas station is bad. You don't know that. Now, it's one of the things I generally do. I don't generally get gas when the tanker is coming and is actually, refilling the tanks at the gas station. I generally, if I see a gas station and they're currently refueling it from a big tanker truck, I'll usually keep going and go to another gas station. And the reason for that's because I know that when they do that, there's silt and sediment and deposits and certain things that generally accumulate at the bottom of the fuel tanks at the gas station. And when they start pumping more fuel into those tanks, there's a possibility. It's, not a huge possibility, but there's a possibility that some of that gets kicked up and then it gets into my fuel system and clogs my fuel filter. We've heard stories like that, right? Well, with this, you don't really know if you've got bad gas. That's the thing. So what can you do to protect yourself if you don't know you've got bad gas? And for one, I don't think it's entirely possible to prevent yourself from getting the bad gas in the vehicle, but there is a headache that could happen to you that would be possibly worse than having contaminated fuel in your vehicle. And that is having contaminated fuel in your vehicle, but not having any proof that you got gas at that station, and then perhaps being declined any sort of payment, from the gas station's insurance company, for example. I mean, so like there's that concern, right? So hear me out. Say you went to the gas station and you paid in cash and you didn't take a receipt and you filled up your car and you got some contaminated fuel. And now your car needs $5,000 in repair, let's say, right? Hypothetically. Well, you go to the gas station and it happened to other people, and the gas station goes, okay, where's your receipt? You go, I don't have one. So they're probably, I'm not saying they will, but there is a high likelihood that the gas station and or the gas station's insurance company, who's going to be paying out on these claims, is probably going to deny your claim because, you paid in cash, so there's no transaction receipt, there's no statement, there's nothing on a bank statement, and you don't have the actual paper receipt. Like, that's one of the big things. Now, we have yet to see if that's really happened to anybody in this instance, but it is something that I would be concerned about enough that I would always make a point to get a receipt at a gas station, or if I'm paying with a credit card, I think that's probably sufficient in itself because you've got that transaction as a record in the credit card statement. Now, by the way, side note, tangent, because credit card skimmers exist, I would almost always suggest using a actual credit card, not a debit card, if you're going to use it at the pump. I've got friends who get their card skimmed on like a regular basis, and it has happened to me too. But whenever it's happened to me, it's been a credit card, and you just file a thing with your credit card company, and no big deal, right? But when it's your debit account and your debit card gets skimmed, and then you got to do a thing with your bank and hope that your bank does, protection for debit accounts. And then even if they do, you're out the money until they do their investigation. With a credit card, it's not a big issue. So anyway, that's a little bit of a tangent right there. But I would say one of the key things that would be important, and a lesson from this, is to make sure that you are getting either a receipt or you're using a credit card at the pump. That's what I would say, because knowing that, all right, I can't necessarily predict the future and know if this fuel is contaminated. So what can I do to cover my bases if the fuel is contaminated? That's possibly one of those cases. Now, granted, this is one of those things that we hope doesn't happen to you. It hasn't happened to me personally. Actually, I think I dodged the bullet because I was in Japan when it happened. Otherwise, I would have probably gotten gas at one of these gas stations. So, I probably dodged a little bit of the bullet right there. Now, it'll be interesting to see who ultimately pays out on this, right? Because the gas stations that receive the bad fuel undoubtedly, of course, have their insurance, and their insurance is probably going to pay those immediate claims, but then their insurance is going to want to get reimbursed, and they're going to sue. Their insurance company is going to sue the distributor, and the distributor is going to pay out with their insurance, and who knows what's going to happen here. It's a tangled web of contaminated fuel is what it is. And so we'll see on that. We'll keep an eye on this story for you and give you some updates on this lawsuit. If you were affected by it, they do have a number they say you can call for the law firm, which is 1-303-800-0000. That's 4 zeros there. So they do have that if you were affected by it and you want to, let the legal firm that's doing the class action know. So anyway, hey, coming up after the break here, we're talking Tokyo Auto Salon and AI in car sales. That's all right here.
He brushes his teeth with 5W30. Matt West is on Automotive ADHD.
All right, thanks for joining me here on the last segment here of the Automotive ADHD show. It's hard to believe it goes by so fast, but I've got a couple of things I'm really excited to get to here, and I want to give you some of my experience from the Tokyo Auto Salon, and what I'm going to go ahead and do is I'm going to do that as a podcast bonus right here after the radio show. So if you're listening on the radio show, make sure you go check out the podcast for that as well. But this is something else I want to get to, and I think it's remarkably important because it is a sign of the times to come. And this comes by way of the Autopian. Hat tip to Thomas Hudnall over there. And by the way, the Autopian is a great publication. If you liked old school Jalopnik, if you were really active as a reader of Jalopnik, 5-10 years ago, and you kind of miss it because it's not really like that anymore, you got to check out the Autopian. Also, because it's just David Tracy and all of the people from Jalopnik then who run this now. So anyway, hat tip to those guys there. But this headline from the Autopian: these AI-generated Cadillac photos posted to Bring a Trailer are a sign of bad things to come. That's the headline. And this was this created quite the buzz over there on Bring a Trailer. If you're unfamiliar with it, then clearly you're not like me, who I'm a person who spends my lunch breaks browsing cars that I definitely can't afford, and sometimes placing bids on cars that I probably shouldn't over on Bring a Trailer. It's a great way to pass a lunch break. That's for sure. That's for sure. And it's also a great way to irritate your family when you buy another car. But anyway, there's some really cool cars that do come up on Bring a Trailer. A lot of times they're different. They are enthusiast-based. They're unusual. Bring a Trailer tends to have a fairly eclectic variety of interesting cars that go up for sale. Now, this specific Cadillac was over on Bring a Trailer, and I say this specific Cadillac, I don't actually know if there is a real car here, because I'm looking at this photo here, and this is a 90s Cadillac here. It's supposedly a 1999 Cadillac DeVille Florida spec. So it gets the vinyl top on it, and it's 81,000 miles. It's not a lot for one of these cars. And so in theory, this would be in nice condition if it existed, which I don't believe that it does. Because this picture right here, if you're watching on video, is so clearly AI at this point. Now, granted, I know some people have a harder time picking out AI stuff, and frankly, it gets harder every day. So I can't necessarily fault people who don't immediately see something that's AI and go, that's AI, because, man, the AI stuff is getting really good now. It's getting really scary good. This, however, is fairly obvious AI. The lighting's not very consistent. The car has some weird proportioning to it. If you're familiar with these cars, you would know that it's not quite proportioned right. The mirrors aren't right. And the dead giveaway is the complete gibberish on the license plate. That is absolute just nonsense for a license plate, right? That's a dead giveaway. Again, AI is getting really good, though. And, we see some things here that are problematic. Then we see another picture that, this one doesn't quite match. Looks a little different. The wheels look different. Oh, this one does have a real looking license plate. The grill's not quite right, though. Then we go to the next picture, and the car's flipped the other way around. Also, the context, like the spatial positioning of the building behind it is not exactly consistent photo to photo. That's another giveaway there. Taillights are unusual from this picture to the next. Wheels, again, are different in this. And I'm scrolling through it here. And again, if you're watching on video, you'll see it. And then when we get to the interior, is that a cobblestone floor inside this car? That is a cobblestone floor inside this car. Somebody has taken some notes from Top Gear there. Where's the wood stove to go with it? This doesn't make sense. Like the pictures like this look somewhat believable if you're glancing at them quickly or if you're looking at them from afar. Maybe you don't quite have your glasses on quite right, you know? They can look believable, but when you look at the details, when you're looking at AI images, and I think we're going to have to get really good at this, all of us, especially if you're buying a used car, to spot things that are AI like this. Like, take a look at this picture of the interior here, okay? At a glance, okay, it looks like an interior. But you look at some of the details, and there are apparently 2 column shifters, but one of them is coming out of the key cylinder. So yeah, that's not right. Also, the buttons are, if you zoom in, are kind of a mishmash of nonsense. So, AI tends to do stuff like that. For now, it does. You take a look at this picture with the door here. It's missing the A-pillar on that door. So, I mean, look, we could pick apart every photo here and talk about why it obviously is AI. It's obviously AI. And this is a problem, and it became quite an issue with the members of Bring a Trailer, the people on there. I mean, tons of comments on this. I mean, people immediately picked up on this. This one commenter says, "Come on, guys. We all know the 1999 DeVille is 20 feet long on the left side, 14 feet long on the right side, somewhere between 25 and 30 pavers wide," probably referencing the cobblestone floor, and could be ordered with a rare A-pillar delete. Of course, he's kind of joking here. But the fact is, this made it through over on Bring a Trailer. Now, Bring a Trailer posted a response to this, and I suppose they took the car down, and they said they have a fairly manual process when it comes to approving posts, and that they dropped the ball here. They said they'll take it bluntly on the nose. They dropped the ball. And so it is what it is, unfortunately. Now, what does this mean in the grand scheme of things when it comes to buying and selling cars? Now, I think it's something that's very concerning. The fact that it slipped through on Bring a Trailer, which is supposed to have, it's a premium listing site. It's a site you pay for listings, right? And so I think that the fact that it slipped through there, okay, it's a mistake. They might be more aware of this stuff in the future. But the fact that anyone's trying to push AI stuff through, that is a problem. Now, was the poster of this car trying to do that? Was this maybe a real car and then they ran the pictures through AI to make it look nicer? I don't know what the intentions were on there, but I can't imagine the intentions were good. I really can't. And if we're seeing this on a premium site like Bring a Trailer, well, what are we going to start seeing over on Facebook Marketplace and Craigslist and, anywhere where you buy a car? What happens even if you're, looking at a listing online, and then the seller sends you more photos? You ask for more photos and the seller texts you more photos. Hey, can I see a picture of the engine bay? Can you take a picture of the, the rocker panels? Is there any rust in the rockers, right? And this is concerning because anyone now with very little skill and knowledge can come into this and take a picture of a car. And maybe it is a real car and they're just using AI to doctor that picture, but they can cover up things like rust. They could take blistering paint and, and make it look nice and fresh again. And you would never know until you went out of your way to go see the car. Even more concerning is if someone starts doing this with out-of-state sales. I've bought cars out of state before, and I always want a bunch of pictures. I want videos. Well, guess what? AI can do videos now too. Who's to say that, granted, we spotted some differences in these pictures, but who's to say in another year or 2 years that AI isn't going to be able to just, regurgitate something that looks completely passable and you can't tell the difference. And maybe you think you're talking to a buyer who's selling a car out of state. And that car, as it turns out, doesn't even exist. It's not even a real car. It's just a scam. It's some Nigerian scammer or something. And who knows? The possibilities for deceit and fraud with this really concern me. And I think that it's worth bringing this story up now just to put a spotlight on it, just to put some awareness on it. We got to keep our eyes peeled for this stuff more and more and more. And it's not going to be one of these things that just slowly happens. That's not how it works with AI. Now that we've seen it, I bet we're going to start seeing it a lot and really soon. So keep your eyes peeled on that stuff. This isn't good. Don't use AI in any way to doctor your car photos. That's like, I mean, especially for like a car being sold. That's not cool. So anyway, let me know what you think about the coming AI apocalypse. Comment in the YouTube and on the Facebook and the Spotify. So, hey, thanks for watching. Thanks for joining me. We're going to do a podcast bonus. I'm going to give you some of my experiences at the Tokyo Auto Salon. So we're going to get to that and more after this.